So just a note that I will share the screen, and it will just show us the questions and just some introductions. So if you don't want to see my screen, maybe you can change the view to the gallery or to the side by side, and then you can adjust your view to see all the panelists bigger. So I think maybe we can start now, I guess. And we have about 26 participants here. So, okay. So first of all, welcome everyone to SHARE's 21st panel discussion. My name is Bích Patanamontong Tanunam from the University of Melbourne. And today I will be a host of the panel discussion today. And as I mentioned, the session is being recorded. If you are not comfortable of being recorded or prefer not to record your questions, please turn off your camera or refrain from asking the questions. And you can still ask your question in the social gatherings. And the topic of the panel today is SHARE in the age of crisis and technological revolutions. So as you may know, SHARE has covered extensive range of research on the cooperative and human aspect of software engineering. But nowadays there is a huge pandemic and it suddenly shifts everyone's lifestyle and work into the online mode, while the critical questions around the ethics, sustainability, and security of the software enter everyday discussions. Moreover, the technological revolution in the form of AI and new technologies are transforming our societies. But on the other hand, there is a large part of the global population still has the limited access to the infrastructure, not even the electricity in some places. So today, we are really lucky to have the world-renowned researcher as panelists to discuss these challenges and provide their view on how SHARE could address some of the issues that will be relevant for the next 30 years. So we should have 5 panelists today, but unfortunately, Clayson cannot make it today due to his personal health condition. But today we have Andrew from Microsoft, Peggy from University of Victoria, Raphael from PUCRS, and Yvonne from IT University of Copenhagen. So first of all, I would like to ask each of the panelists to briefly introduce yourself and your research, emphasizing in the area of cooperative and human aspect of software engineering. So maybe the order, maybe we will follow with the image in the slide here first. So over to you, Andrew.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Andrew Bagel. I'm a researcher at Microsoft Research in Seattle, Washington, in the United States. For the last 15 years or so, I've been studying software developers at Microsoft, trying to figure out what makes them tick, how they work together, how they collaborate, how they cooperate, and coordinate their work in order to build Microsoft's really large software products. Lately, I've been doing a lot of research in accessibility and looking at ways to help software engineers who are blind and low vision make better use of the computer, especially in the remote collaborative kind of settings due to COVID. And also looking a lot at neurodiversity and how we can do better software design for those kinds of users.
Thank you. Peggy?
Yeah, hi, I'm Margaret Ann Story from University of Victoria in Canada, and everybody calls me Peggy, so that's why I have 2 names, but that's fine. But officially my name is Margaret Ann, but I'm totally fine if everybody calls me Peggy because it makes me more human sometimes, I think. So my research area is looking at human and social aspects in software engineering, and actually Yvonne reminded me that I was involved in one of the first SHARE. I think a bunch of us had this idea that we needed to have this workshop to talk about more human and social aspects, which I still kind of find ironic that we have to like call it out, because to me, all of software engineering should be about human and social aspects and collaboration and so on. So I've done a lot over the years designing tools, but also evaluating tools, looking at testing, code review, lately security, and also done a lot of research in developer productivity, as well as some work looking at developers working from home during the pandemic, which I talked about yesterday, and talked about some ways forward there with that as well. So I'll leave it there at that.
Thank you. And, Raphael?
Yes. Hi, everybody. It's a great pleasure to be here. So I'm speaking from the south of Brazil. I'm Rafael Priclanic from PUC University in Brazil. I am also a manager in the Science and Technology Park here called TechnoPUC. And the park is located within the university campus and hosts around 170 companies, half of them startups, and more than 6,000 people involved in this innovation ecosystem. So I've been doing research on software engineering in the last 15 years in several topics, including global software engineering, agile methodologies, more recently, startups and implications for the software process development, and then also diversity and inclusion in software engineering. And all of these areas, I always try to study from a human aspect dimension. And as Peggy said, for me, it's very important. I cannot see studying software engineering without taking into account the human aspects.
Thank you. So Ivan.
Yes, welcome, Ivan Dittrich. I'm representing part as I'm not sure whether I'm representing Europe, probably not, but yeah, so I'm in Copenhagen. I'm professor in software engineering. I was actually a bit puzzled when I was asked kind of what aspect of human cooperative and human aspects, because I think I always understood that as a field. But I think if you want to describe my research, I'm interested in how people manage software engineering, how they actually manage to develop some software. I think it's still sometimes puzzling that there's some outcome, and how they co-construct their collaboration. I think that is a core for me. And I'm also interested in collaboration between software engineers and other stakeholders like users or across organizations, other developers in other companies. So so yes, so that's me.
Thank you so much. So yeah, we have a great panelists and with a diverse background here. So I believe that the discussion today will be very fruitful. So just a note that if you have any questions, feel free to type in the chat here, so then I can read the questions at the end of the sessions. So maybe let's start with the first questions. So after the pandemic, what are the top 3 future challenges for software engineering with respect to the human collaborations, and how might we address them? So maybe the same order might be a little bit boring. So I have something interesting here. I have the picker wheel with the full name of the panelists. So I will select who will be the first one, and then we will go in the order of clockwise. So let's see who will be the first. Yeah. So yeah. Yeah, so congratulations, Becky. So you will be the first one.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, I will keep it short, but for me, I think 3 big challenges that we have going forward, and it is after the pandemic that I'm sort of really framing this with as well. The first one is loneliness. The second one is awareness. And the third one is creativity. And I'll just say a little bit about each of them. So I think it was Russo in his research on work from home that, or their researcher, I guess he was first author, they showed that developers, when they feel lonely at home, they would also feel bored. And so this also impacts developer productivity. And I think after the pandemic, some companies are going to return to office, but I think a lot are not, or they're going to have some variation on it, some kind of hybrid, or maybe they'll be fully remote. I know some companies are going fully remote. And for sure, some engineers, some workers, knowledge workers will say that they are better at home. They're not lonely. But that has an impact then on the other people that are lonely. And I also think, just thinking about my students, I have over the years, I have some students and they say, well, I'm very introverted. I don't really need to mix with anybody. But I'm like, yeah, you do. It's better for you. You actually are better when you mix with other people. So I think loneliness is going to be something that we need to think about. And I know that we can have great tools to help us collaborate and do the work. We've seen that. But loneliness is the first issue. The second issue I wanted to talk about was awareness and coordination. So there's nothing like being in a room. So if I was presenting today in Madrid with you all in the room, I would know instantly that I'm talking too much and I'm boring you and you've heard it all before. But with being online, it's hard to have that sense, right, of how people are feeling about it. So awareness about mood, but also awareness about, are people busy? Are they stressed? Are they working on the thing? You can look over people's shoulders and see what they're doing. So and also coordination can be very difficult as well without those cues. And there's a theory called proxemic theory that talks a little bit about the kinds of information we get when we're sort of co-located with people and when we're close to them. And then the third one, I was toying with calling this the magic of collaboration or creativity, but I think in a way it sort of is both of those things. So when we collaborate with others, we are more creative when we're co-located. There's serendipity that happens. There's just ideas that bounce off each other just so much better. We make better decisions, I think, when we're in the room together. I mean, I don't have evidence for this. Maybe some of you do, and I'd love those papers. But I really worry that creativity is going to suffer. So I'll leave it at that. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That's a very great point. So I also noticed that the loneliness is a very big issue, and like in the view of the student, it decreases the motivation of the student a lot. So I believe that it's the same for the software developers. So Raphael, do you have anything to add about the challenge?
Yes. So let me try to add something on what Peggy just said. So first, to me, is kind of related to what Peggy just said. It's like, I believe that there's going to be, we are already facing that more competition for software developers globally. This is happening for a while now, but now, for example, from Brazil, I can see that clearly there are many software developers here in Brazil being hired for companies all over the world. So this is one thing that will change drastically, at least here in the country. And this for me is a challenge because we have to consider the reality of each region, each country in the world. And there are studies, there are some people estimate that in 2025, all the world will be connected at some point over the internet. So nowadays we have, let's say, half or a little bit more than half of the world connected. So once we have more people connected to the internet, we may have even more software developers available and connected to do the work globally. So I think this is one of the challenges we have to face, and I see many opportunities for that. The second is hybrid work. Peggy mentioned this, and I believe at this point, talking to companies here in Brazil and understanding their reflections, they are still varying from one extreme of being back to the office or working from home. But I think after the pandemic, we're going to have some or more flexibility, and we're going to have a hybrid type of work. And again, some companies and some countries we're going to need to learn about it, and this will also influence laws and rules and things that in each country works differently. Mm-hmm. And to do all of this, we surely will need to have more coordination. So coordination is an area that we've been studying for a while in software engineering, and I think we're going to have to study even more with this change in the global scenario for software development. That's my contribution for this question.
Yeah, thank you. That's very good point. Yeah, especially the hybrid mode. Yeah, I think that will change the culture a lot. So, Yvonne, do you have anything more to add about the top 2 challenges?
I think I would say there's also a potential that comes with this. because so far often if you had hybrid teams where you had some teams co-located, some teams dispersed, or at two sites, it was always it was always an extra effort to create awareness of the remote side, the remote team, and there's very few teams that actually managed to make the virtual the normal. However, now kind of everybody had to go virtual, so everybody has learned of what does it mean to be on the other side, and I think that will help the teams to be more to work more successful, distributed and dispersed. Whether that is something that we would like to have, or whether that is something that is kind of a complementary state, and we sometimes work alone, sometimes we are together with our colleagues. That is another thing, but the ability and the awareness of the need to coordination, the need to also agree on how to coordinate and to keep to these agreements. I think that is also something that the software engineering will take out, and we probably will see that in our fieldwork in the future.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I think coordination is getting harder because we work more asynchronously. So in the virtual world, yeah, I completely agree with that. So Andrew, you have any more? Yes.
There's a bunch of things that are popping up here at Microsoft that I think are kind of relevant. One of them, and it's being somewhat mentioned on the chat right now, is overwork, is burnout, is people are finding that without the commute that they would normally have to work, and without the nice breaks that you usually get between meetings, you tend to, and without the social interactions that you get just from having people nearby you, like all that basically means you're focusing much more of your attention during the day on your work, and you're doing more of it. And for some people, that's fantastic. They're great and they're super productive. But for a lot of people, especially those that have suffer from mental illnesses or have types of cognitive differences, that can lead to burnout super easily, where they can't get anything done after a while. They just do too much. However, I do want to say, I think conversely, that the pandemic has been fantastic for inclusion, in that there's lots of people who, whether they were not included because of physical disabilities, or they did not feel comfortable due to their invisible disabilities, like their cognitive differences, it's made it possible that you can create yourself a perfectly comfortable environment at home and not have to deal with the environment of work, where you're distracted, where your focus is bothered, where there's other people talking, where there's a lot of stress in the environment and you can't necessarily get your work finished. And by working from home, you can make the perfect environment for yourself. That doesn't work for everybody. And for a lot of people who are extroverted, who are social, it's kind of awful. I mean, you know, there's only so much social interaction you can get from going to Starbucks, but you can get some, and that's good enough for some people. But yeah, it'd be good to get to work. So I would say, like, I would like to see I think the hybrid environment is going to continue for the foreseeable future. Even when people go back to the office, it's not going away. There's going to be some people who remain hybrid. I mean, Twitter has said all employees can stay hybrid. Facebook as well. Like, if you just want to work from home, fine. You work from home now. And where home is, who knows, right? That could be anywhere. A lot of people are moving out of state because it's cheaper to live, or it's more comfortable to live somewhere. And you can imagine that's actually such a huge, significant change. If you imagine, what's the real purpose of a building, of an office building now? We don't, you know, before it used to be in some fields, like, okay, so if you're like a butcher, you kind of need the place where all the meat is. Or if you're a smith, you kind of need to worry about like where the forge is, because you're not going to have one of those in your house. But what do? We work with computers. I have a nice camera, I have a computer, and I have a microphone. I'm good. I could work literally anywhere there's an internet connection and electricity. So I think if you imagine, maybe we'd never actually have to go to work, and we could fully distribute all of our companies. And that would be a huge transformation of our business. And it would be amazing and provide lots of opportunity for future studies.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah, that's a very good point as well. I think when we go to the hybrid mode now, the big question would be like, how can we trade off between burnout or getting noisy in the workplace? So it will be like a thing that we have to further think. Yeah. So thank you very much. Those are very interesting and very important challenges that we need to address in the futures. Sama, you have a question? Can we do a very quick one and then we'll move on to, yes.
Hi, I want to make a comment, not a question.
Yes.
So this
Okay.
is the, Anita Sarma, this is the Gender Max soapbox. It's great. You're going for hybrid. And, it is, Andy said he has great internet connection, so awesome. But, we need to think about, and when we are saying, oh, let's all go hybrid, there are the cognitive styles that are different, and some tools have biases built in. Some people do not have access to technology and internet, so it should not be stigmatized that if someone wants to go to the office, right? So we need to think about what are the peer pressures that come into play when someone says, oh, hybrid is the best way to go, or oh, let's all go online. So we just need to be careful about the different needs and different working styles that people have.
Yeah, can I chime in too? Just to, awesome, Anita. I was thinking also, like there may be some situations where people feel like, okay, I have to be hybrid because, I live in this rural area, or because, I have to be home when the kids get home, or because I have this disability or whatever. And other people say, oh, gee, I do better at the office. And so the ones that are at the office have a clear advantage. And it sort of reminds you of the old days where certain people got invited to the golf club and other people didn't. And a lot of business got done there at the golf club. And so, there could be a lot of unintended consequences here. And also, what about loyalty to my company? I mean, I no longer associate my company with a particular building or the people I see there, or the Thursday wine event or whatever. And so, I can switch companies at the drop of a hat now. So that's another unintended consequence. So I feel like there's an awful lot in the territory of unintended consequences that could happen here.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for the discussions. Maybe we will move on to the next one. Since we don't have much time left. The second question is, right now we are entering in the era of software 2.0, which is the software with the AI components. So what is the top challenge that software engineers should look out for the society and human when we develop the software 2.0? And is there any aspect that should be re-educated or transformed, and how? So we have two big questions here. Actually, since we don't have much time, you can maybe pick one of them and then we can then discuss. So I will do the same thing. I will do the picker wheel again. Hopefully you can hear the sound for this time. I just share the sounds. So Kimon, you are the lucky one. So you will be the first one for the answer to these questions. Thank you. Hello.
Yvonne, I think your microphone is muted.
Yeah.
I think in a way about artificial intelligence and how that come in. But I think actually what is very interesting is to the precondition that we can use this artificial intelligence algorithm is that we actually have the data. And I happened to started to look into in some project what does it take to both develop and these kind of societal infrastructures or database societal infrastructures about health data or about financial data, and started to look into that a bit. People started to talk about data ecosystems, and here you have also cross-actor collaboration. You have long-term maintenance of these structures. You have who's governing these structures, how is democratic elected not actors, but instances, and what is the constituency of these data sharing and things like that. So, and I think there is both, of course, a question of design, but it's also a question about how the design of these infrastructures support collaboration between actors. And here, I think that is both relevant for the Europe and the global North, but it is also and especially relevant for the global South, that where the integration and network integration of data is both a promise, but also can be a threat. So I think that is, I think that will be a topic that is maybe less fancy, less kind of doesn't create as much attraction as artificial intelligence and software engineering point with artificial intelligence. So I would say software engineering of and for societal infrastructures is one of the things that will be also very problematic and interesting to go into, especially with the change perspective.
Thank you so much. So maybe we'll go the same order. So Andrew.
Yeah, so this is something that I've worked on for the last couple of years around what we call like human AI collaboration and human AI collaborative experiences. One of the things that's super important is obviously that AI is created ethically and behaves responsibly, or is created responsibly and behaves ethically, that it doesn't make decisions that can't be audited by a human, or that there is a person, we call this human in the loop kind of evaluation of AI, where like an example might be like when you're given a phishing email and you're asked, you know, is this spam or is this not spam? Because you're helping the system kind of calibrate its classifier. That's a system where the human is in the loop helping that AI system. And when you have AI systems that themselves are chained across multiple, like you have multiple AI models like chained together to form some kind of end-to-end system that includes people, because most of these AI systems are really trying to replicate a lot of human abilities and experiences. That's really where you start needing to have newer metrics that are able to both replay and replicate kind of what people do when they interact with these systems, but also be able to create human in the loop metrics for not just what's your ROC curve and how precise or accurate your model is, but how does the person who is the recipient or the customer of this system in which the model is embedded, how do they behave? And are they able to get their task done? And are they able to get it done in a way that is inclusive, or that they can understand how it's working and they're not confused by it? I think those are the critical issues that we're going to be facing.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, thank you so much. So Peggy, do you have anything to add? Yes.
Sure. Yeah, I love the idea of human in the loop metrics. And I mean, I thought when I saw this question, I thought, oh, it's a trick question. It's such an easy answer, right? But I did want to sort of pick on that a little bit in terms of thinking about all of the papers that we have that are being submitted to conferences like ICSE that, you know, have a new AI algorithm for doing recommendations or whatever it is. And there's, you know, there's a badge if you submit your data with those systems. Well, I'd love if we were at a place in our community where if you design an AI algorithm or machine learning or whatever, and it's designed to be used by a human, that there should be a badge or a field in the review that says, did a human actually, you know, look at this and consider the usability of it, but also consider, you know, potential bias in the data, or, you know, is the data potentially, I mean, it is biased, of course, all data has biases, but the nature of the biases, and also consider ethics. So that's, I guess, maybe one aspect of our research community that I think I'd like to see transformed.
Yeah, thank you so much. So last but not least, Raphael.
Yeah, so I'll be short. I just want to add to that for me, a very important aspect that should be re-educated or transformed is that to combine AI and software, we have to have teams with different backgrounds doing that work, like teams with different not only technical background but social background and cultural backgrounds. Because if we wanna if you wanna teach an AI algorithm on something, as Peggy said, we have to call a human and as if this is working the way we expect, but we have to consider cross-functional teams and different backgrounds to that in order to increase the the how precise or how close we are from doing that as a human would do. So that for me is something that we really need to work hard to have it for the future of software 2.0.
Okay, thank you. So I think Andrew have one more thing that I'd like to add. Yeah.
There's one thing that's really coming up as a significant barrier here, which is all the tools that we have in software engineering for modularizing software teams and separating them out from one another means that companies like Microsoft have data collection teams that are independent from model development and model training teams, and which are also different than the teams that maybe do the sales or actually figure out what the end user use case is. And what we find is that in order to, the model trainer people kind of come up with a way to make the model perfect according to their ROC curve. But then it turns out in the use case that they're trying to apply it to, that one of their customers is applying it to, it actually performs really badly and you need to go back to the data collection phase and get more data. But those are a different team. You can't just go and ask them for stuff because they're servicing like 15 other customers. That adding one more field of data from 1 billion users means that's pretty significant piece of data storage that you need to buy extra hard drives in order to be able to support that. And they don't just change on a dime. And the fact that these teams are all separated in a way that's very natural for software engineering is actually very detrimental to anything where you're engineering an AI application. And I think we haven't really figured out how to fix it because the only real fix is to make an end-to-end team, which itself is non-modular, does not scale. We don't know how to build that big. And we don't have a good solution for this. And I think we desperately need one.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, that's all of you raised very good points. So we have about 7 minutes left. So let's move on to the last questions, and then we can move on the discussion if we have time left. So as you may notice that right now we more using the software, everyone using the software, but in the same time, there is some places that couldn't access to the technologies that we have. So the last question is that how can we make software be more inclusive, more sustainable, and involve places in the world that have very limited infrastructure? How could Chase research address such topics? So last time for the spinning wheel, and then so I think you are very lucky today, Yvonne. So I will do Yvonne first and then do it in the inverse order then. Yeah, thank you.
All right. Yes, I think lucky and lucky because otherwise I could actually also support kind of draw on the contribution of the others. But for me, I think again, and that was kind of the starting point. I think that yeah, so there will for a while be people who are who don't have computers, but I think most of the people also in the developing countries have one way or other access at least to feature phones. So we And I don't think that we can think about like the global north has all the infrastructure and the global south is out of the grid. There's still it still is the case, but it will be less and less the case. And also the challenges in terms of data collection on a societal level and about people and the usage of this data both for example, healthcare provisioning or kind of, I'm involved in a project looking into irrigation advice and for farmers, and I think these kind of applications will also be more and more there. However, it also means that that we get into a more unified challenge about what does this collection of data and data-based algorithms that are so beneficial in many cases, what does that do to our civic societies? How can we manage them, and how can we actually govern them? And what are the technical challenges in that, but also what does that mean for collaboration between, for example, the national agency holding the healthcare data and pharmaceutical industry who would like to have access, for example, to evaluate the side effects of the vaccines that we are all taking in these times. So, and I think there funny again, the global north is a bit in a disadvantage because we have the heritage system, and whereas, for example, structures like the India Stack, which is developed to integrate the financial data for the data for the financial industry, comes later and doesn't have some of the or did implement some of the learnings that we see is a problem now in Europe. So I think this is a common problem, and it's a common thing that we have to get our head around. And here more than ever, the collaboration between actors in an ecosystem. What are the governing structures? How can we support the continuous evolution and also don't get a data Wild West? I think that is a common challenge for the whole world.
Thank you. So Raphael, do you have anything to add from your point of view?
Yes. So how can we make software more inclusive? I think the short answer is by including people and including a diverse group, an inclusive group as much as possible. I'll give a practical example. I'm helping organizing a panel on the Agile conference that will be held online in July. And the panel is about diversity and inclusion. And the whole idea, the Agile Alliance is pretty much, the conference attract, I would say 80% of the participants are from North America. Maybe online this will change, but the idea of inviting us to help organize the panel is because they want to bring different perspectives of how different parts of the world see diversity. So, and I believe this is a challenge because not all of us are aware of how important, how different perspectives think on diversity different. So I think this is still a challenge, and so it's something that we have to always think about it, like always think on diversity and inclusion from different backgrounds, different geographies, and different dimensions, and of course by reaching places where we would not be able to reach in the past, and taking the advantage of this. Now we are more global, more digital, and we have more opportunity to include those underrepresented groups.
Oh, thank you. So we almost run out of the time. Maybe Peggy and Andrew, can you give a quick thought about these questions? Yes.
Yeah, I think Raphael and Yvonne made some really good points already. I think in terms of how Chase could address this. We could promote more action research, papers that do action research that address these topics, and have, you know, a special theme or a track even, or awards or something for papers that address this really important. Oh, sorry, Andy, sorry. We're like-minded. So I took his idea. But anyway, that's my point. You can add to it, Andy.
So
It's funny,
maybe
I first
Andrew.
learned about action research in a Chase workshop at in Cape Town in 2011. And it was so eye-opening for me. I've never heard of the idea of going to some place with a researcher with the capacity to do kind of anything and saying like, I can research, I'm a researcher for hire. What would you like me to do to help you guys? I have Wi-Fi. And they come and say like, here's what we need. And you're like, great, let's do it. That's awesome. That's so much better than just going there as with the colonial attitude of like, I'm going to do this to your village, and be like, that's not what we want.
Yeah.
And it's the same kind of attitude I see with in neurodiversity. When you talk to autistic people, a lot of things have been done to autistic people their entire lives, and they're tired of it, and they really would like it if you would ask them what they think is important to help them with, instead of just assuming that it's got to be that they're different from neurotypical people.
Yeah. Okay, all right. I think we ran out of the time for the panel discussions, but after this session, we still have a social gathering. So maybe before we move to the discussions in the social gathering, I would like to thank all the panelists today. The discussion is very great. We learned lots of very interesting challenges and very many aspects in many viewpoints. So thank you so much for the discussions today. Thank you. Maybe we ran a big round of the applause. Thank you. Yes. Yeah. So maybe
That's fun.
do we need to stop the recording before the discussion, or you want to continue, Rashina?
I think I would like to add one thing to the mix, and that is a friend and colleague from me from Namibia. She has started to look into as a co-design with disadvantaged communities for a long time. And one of the things that she highlighted is that the methods have to change. So our methods, our co-design methods carry cultural values, cultural kind of that fit, maybe especially to Scandinavia. So the question is then, how do you translate that for other cultures? And similarly, our software engineering methods carry cultural values. So I think this is not only about the design. This is also about how we, in our way of perceiving cooperation and co-design, will have to change. I forgot the name. It's too early in the morning for me, but I will put the name in the chat when I Heike Vincius Theophilus. That's her name.
Oh, nice.
Awesome. Cool. So I have shared in the chat link to the next Zoom session, which is for the social. But just before we do that and close up, can I please have everybody thank Pick for doing an amazing job hosting the session. I think we've all loved Pick's Pick a Wheel, and we're all gonna use it. Thank you so much, Pick, for doing an amazing job there.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. And everybody don't run away. We hope to see everybody back into the social gathering straight away. So grab that URL and see you there.
Thank you, and bye, everyone.